All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Joining me at this time, as he does every week on a Wednesday evening, it's my good friend and fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green, down there in Ucla, Georgia. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. It's good to be back. It's finally feels like fall outside. I'm digging it.
It does feel like fall outside. It's pretty nice. But we're at that point, and this is old man on his corner type deal here. It's hard to know how to heat or cool off the house. Like this is tough because when you're in the summer and you're in the winter, it's pretty clear. It's pretty easy. You know how to keep your thermostat in the right spot. What you need to do. Every day, it's a battle. You got to figure out what to put it on, what to do. Like some days you got to just leave it off the whole day. Like it's a battle right now for the household and figuring out what to do on the daily.
These are the struggles, first world problems.
What are you doing? Are you on air? Are you on AC? Are you on heat yet? What are you doing?
Ours is actually weird. It's like we'll be on AC. And we've set at like 76 or something, and then we wake up middle of the night, it's like 66, and you're like, this is awful. And then you put it on like 76 to heat it back up, just click it over to heat, and then all of a sudden it gets all the way up to like 82. You're like, what is this garbage? Just keep it at like 76 and it'll be fine. But yeah, it's so I'm flipping back and forth. I haven't like settled on one. I'm a guy I like to keep it cool though. Also, I that's just me personally.
Same here. I'm also a guy that loves to keep it cool. I'm a cool guy. Like I love to keep it cool.
Exactly.
Matt Green. Don't forget, folks, that if they want to check out this program, they can do so on YouTube.com. You can watch this right now. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, we appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that like button below this video. All that good stuff. Share it out. Subscribe if you have not already done so as we continue growing out the YouTube page here on the Chase Thomas Podcast on the Blue Wire Pod Network. So you can find us youtube.com/Chase Thomas Podcast. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts each and every day. New episodes covering everything. But, today it's college football. So lock in there. Make sure you're subscribed on your preferred podcast player. And if you are already a returning listener each and every day, and you haven't already done so, hit that pause button right now and leave us a 5-star review, 5-star rating and a review. Helps other people find the show, and it helps this very show continue to grow. Matt Green, we don't have any news. We were talking about before we got started here. There was just not how we were coming through, and it's just so weird because I think we have become conditioned to just another groundbreaking thing to happen week over week in college football. It seems like the sport is just always having things happen, whether it's coach firings, coach hirings, player movement, conference realignment, games being like this, just up and down the list. There's just all kinds of stuff that usually Nigel the Nighthawk has been overwhelmed over the last year, keeping order of all the different news items that he's had to keep up with for this very program. But we're giving him the week off because there's just not a lot of college football news outside of the actual games happening this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. It's the calm before the storm. Then there's something big is gonna happen. Probably tomorrow after we air this. But
let's hope not.
But yeah, we've already touched on how many coaches got fired this week. So yeah, it's we're just talking ball now, and that's the way we like it anyway.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to talk ball as we do at this time every week, but Matt Green, refresh the good listeners about where we're at heading into week 6 of our college football picks.
Oh, man, I didn't even have it pulled up. This is amateur hour right here.
Okay.
We know that you are in the lead, so you have a 7-game lead overall. You're 41-17 on the season. I am 34-24 against the spread. You're 28-2, right at 500, and I'm trailing you by 3 games, 25-31-2. And then Zeus, with his home dog of the week, is 2-3 on the season. So we'll see if Zeus can get another one in the win column, get up to 500.
Well, it's a big week. I'm curious to see who is home dog of the week here, because there are a lot of choices in this one, and he better not do what I think he might do on this pick'em. But we'll see. We'll see what Zeus is up to. Matt Green, where are we going first?
I think we got to start it off with the College GameDay game of the week, going to Lawrence, Kansas. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Kansas is a 6-point home dog to the TCU Horned Frogs. Fun fact for you, every game in the Big 12 has a ranked team this week involved in it, other than Oklahoma, Texas, which is kind of wild to think of. But so I think, personally, for me in this game, Kansas is a great story and everything, but it feels like they're not actually legit. Like Iowa State, they have a good defense and everything. What was that game? 14-11. Like, TCU's actually look like a good team. Like, this is I think they're third in the country in points per game right now, averaging I think 48 points a game. Max Duggan has yet to throw an interception this season. I just think this TCU offense is has way too much firepower for Kansas to keep up with. It's a nice story to see the Jayhawks in the top 25, but I think TCU is going to bring them back down a peg. So give me the Horned Frogs to go on the road and win by at least a touchdown.
So you have them covering too?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It'll be an electric atmosphere, all like 30,000 that Kansas holds or so. It's probably about the same that the Fog Island Fieldhouse holds, I would bet. But yeah, I'm got to take TCU.
Interesting. So I've been going back and forth on this, Matt Green, and Kansas has actually beaten TCU just once since joining the Big 12 in 2018. But I was going through it because you were thinking about both teams, and the offenses have been electric. Jalen Daniels, Max Duggan, for very different reasons, and it's been a good story. But TCU, number 2 in the country in points per game to this point, which is pretty preposterous. I think, like, Sonny Dykes, he knows offense. Doesn't matter where he goes. Cal, SMU, Texas Tech. It doesn't matter. Like, he's gonna coach up the offense, and they're gonna be all right on that front. But TCU is also 46 in defense nationally, scoring defense. Kansas is 62nd. Kansas is number 12 in scoring. So they are close, and this game can go either way. And when I come back down to it, it's like, how much is the home atmosphere? But you mentioned the 30,000 and the atmosphere here. I don't think Kansas is going to be able to slow down this TCU team enough. And that's where I'm at. 6-0 Kansas would be pretty wild, but I'm not there. I'm going to go TCU to also win, but I think Kansas covers. I could see this being a nail-biter at the very end and TCU winning on a last-second field goal or something. So give me TCU to win, but give me Kansas to cover. I think this will be super close.
Oh, okay. You're going to take Kansas to keep it close. With all due respect to Memorial Stadium there in Lawrence, Kansas, they hold 50,000. Fog Allen Fieldhouse only holds a little over 16,000. So we'll put that one on the board, lock it in. Our next game, going down to Baton Rouge, Tennessee. First visit to Death Valley since, I believe, 2010, if I'm correct on that, which is just an absolute travesty in my book. This is why this SEC schedule, we got to fix it, because there's no way that University of Tennessee should be going to Baton Rouge once every 13 years, 13 years. It just isn't right. We got to fix this. So Tennessee going to LSU. LSU is a 2-point home dog in this one, sir. And give me your thoughts on this game. I know you have a lot of them.
The debut of D. Williams, which I'm sure everyone nationally is waiting for. They've all been waiting for the season debut for the cornerback to make his debut as probably the nickel corner, because Warren Burrell, it was announced this week, I don't know if you saw, the 3-year starter at corner for Tennessee is out for the year while undergoing surgery. So an already thin wide receiver group, or cornerback group in secondary in general, got a little bit more thin this week. That will probably be more of a problem later on this season. Not against Kayshon Boutte, who, if you look at his season stats, just not a lot there. Like, he's going to be fine come NFL stuff and everything like that, but has not produced to that level. That's not how LSU's winning football games right now. They're running the ball really well. Jane Daniels is doing it in other ways. This is tough because LSU is UT is 20-10-1 all time, which kind of surprised me. But the thing about this is Tennessee is now the number 1 passing offense in the country. LSU is 68th. Something that I think a lot of folks have to, and look, there's a reason that Tennessee now has the 3rd highest SEC title odds of anyone in the conference right now. There's a reason that their CFP playoff odds, I think, are 6th nationally right now to win the whole dang thing. I don't think that's happening, obviously, but people have to adjust at some point. It takes some time, I think, throughout the course of a season for people to be like, oh, this is just a different type of deal. Like, people kept waiting for, like, Kyle Trask not to like, kind of turn back into what people thought Kyle Trask was, you know? Because it's like, oh, the walk-on type dude from who was backing out Felipe Franks. Like, Felipe Franks was the name. He was the 5-star. He was he was supposed to be a superstar at Florida. Did not work out, obviously. But people were waiting to write Kyle Trask off, and then Florida just kept winning, and they beat Georgia, and that group just excelled throughout the course of the year. And, I mean, they were just extremely close to making the college football playoff that year. And I think there are some similarities between what Dan Mullen did with those guys and the way that offense just hummed for the course of a season. And I was thinking about it a little bit with Hendon Hooker, who is the best quarterback in the SEC this year. And you look at the quarterback rating, you look up top to bottom, he has been the best quarterback in the conference to this point. All that being said, that's a good place to be in. Like, if you have the best quarterback this year, based on what we've seen, you're going to win a majority of your college football games. Like, you're going to win a lot. When you're the number 1 passing offense in a sport that is so heavily involved, there's a reason that TCU is number 2 in scoring offense. There's a reason the majority of these scoring offenses that are in the top 10 are pass heavy. This is just where the sport is now. And I think it's really, really hard to beat Tennessee playing any way where you're not going to score 40. If LSU cannot score 40, they're not going to beat Tennessee. So, with that being said, and we'll see if Tillman plays, I'm curious to see if Jane Daniels can throw, because Tennessee's run defense isn't bad. That's like the dirty little secret. It's like there are some issues. Tennessee's been good against the run this year, and they get pressure. Joshua Josephs, I expect to play a little bit more. 4-star freshman. Tyree West, they're rotating a bunch. Rodney Gardner has been great at rotating the defensive line. They have a pass rush. Like Tyler Barron, Byron Young. Like, this group gets up to the quarterback. I don't see the points. And I just think that that's ultimately where, at the beginning of the week, I was like, oh, at Death Valley. You know what also helps? Playing this game at noon, 11 a.m. Louisiana time is nice. Not going there at night is a huge win, I think, for the Vols. Avoiding just what that atmosphere is like at night versus during the day, or even at 3:30, the CBS game. They lucked out in a major way getting this game at 11 a.m.
How dare you, sir? You think those folks in Baton Rouge are not going to be ready by the time kickoff comes?
It's not the same. It's not the same at 11 a.m. You know it's not the same.
That place is going to be electric still. It's LSU. It's Death Valley. It's still going to be a loud stadium.
It'll be loud. I just don't think it's going to be as intimidating as it would be at night. I just think that Death Valley at night is a totally different deal. But look, LSU, Brian Kelly has figured some stuff out. He deserves credit. The defense is solid. I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough. But it will come down to, does Tennessee, have they cleaned up what plagued them in these games last year? Emory Jones, Matt Corral, the 3rd and longs, where they just could not get off the field. And the defense would do their job just enough, and then they couldn't stop on 3rd and 12 when they're playing soft zone coverage, because they're dropping 8 and sending 3 a lot last year, and this year they're not doing that nearly as much. But I think if they're doing that in this one, and they're scared of Jaden Daniels getting just kind of breaking stuff off and improvising on his own, Tennessee will have some problems and kind of just see those same kind of things from last year. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think this Tennessee team's different. I think people are starting to realize it's different. They're one of the 6-7 best teams in college football, and they should win this game. I don't think this is where Tennessee goes down. I think they win and cover. I would not be surprised if they win by double digits in this one. So that's where I've landed. They just are going to score too much. Hendon Hooker is just too good. So give me the Vols to win and cover. I'm feeling like 42-24, something like that. 42-24.
Okay. You said a lot there. I want to start by saying, as good as Hendon Hooker has been, I'm not going to say he's the best quarterback in the SEC. I mean, after he's played one conference game, like against Florida at home, like
Pitt counts.
Pitt's a tough opponent, but I think the Pitt game is one of the data points out there. So that's the only road game Tennessee's played so far. They went to overtime with Pitt. Pitt just lost to Georgia Tech, who just fired their head coach. Like, do we know that Pitt is a good team? It's hard to say at this point. So my biggest thing is, I think Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. I think this LSU offense has been better than Florida's offense. I think Tennessee is a better team than LSU. But just the more and more I think about going into Death Valley, like, I can't get the images of Anthony Richardson throwing for over 400 yards out of my head. Like, I think on the road, I just think I don't think it takes 40 points to win at home. Like, I think when you have the atmosphere, the crowd on your side, I think it's probably going to take 30, but I mean, Pitt was 27-27 going into overtime. I think going into Death Valley, as good as I think this Tennessee team is, I think this is by far their biggest challenge so far of the season. I kind of was wanting them, as good as the Florida win was, I kind of wanted them to like assert their dominance over Florida. You know, it felt like they just kind of hung on, and if this is the year for Tennessee and Florida is as bad as they are right now, like, I wanted a more emphatic win over Florida in Neyland Stadium. So, while I think Tennessee's the better team, and I really truly want this third Saturday in October, this College GameDay undefeated showdown to be a thing with Alabama and Tennessee next week, I just don't see Tennessee going into Death Valley and getting the win. So give me LSU to pull the upset at home, and they'll be the home dog of the week.
Wow. Is this Zeus's home dog of the week?
Yeah, we're putting it on the board. I feel like I still wonder about Tennessee. Like, how they're
wonder. I feel like they're very straightforward. I feel like Tennessee might be one of the most straightforward teams right now.
But the pass defense, they just got torched defensively against Florida, and that was at home. That's my biggest thing. Is going on the road it's not necessarily going to be easier. And LSU has a nice stable of backs, as good as Tennessee's run defense has been this year. Like, they just have a lot of different guys to get it to. Like you said, Butte's been pretty underwhelming so far, but they just have a lot of weapons.
2.96 yards per carry, 21st in the country. Like, their run defense is good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. As good as Tennessee's run defense has been, LSU's got a lot of good backs, and Jaden Daniels is also part of that rushing attack, and he's been a really dynamic player. And I think he's better than Anthony Richardson personally, and I think Richardson gave Tennessee's defense a really hard time. So, yeah, I think the home crowd is obviously the kind of the biggest thing that's swaying this. I could see Tennessee winning this by 2 touchdowns at home, but there's something about going into Death Valley. I feel like it accounts for a few points in a game. So, yeah, give me the Tigers to hold serve at home.
Smoky Grays will be out for this one, so that's going to be good. How do you feel about the Smoky Grays?
I do like the Smoky Grays. I'm glad to see Heupel bring the fun back that Jeremy Pruitt sucked out of the program.
That's fair. I'm not seeing it. I don't think this LSU defense is where they were. I mean, losing a lot of talent. I mean, they lost that 5-star kid on the defensive line in the opener to Florida State. I don't know. I don't trust this LSU. I mean, they're 14th in the scoring defense, averaging 14 points a game, giving up.
And they did not look good in the first half versus Auburn at all.
Yeah.
But going on the road, playing at home, it's a different beast.
I mean, when you look, at home, they're giving up 11 points per game. On the road, 20.5. So that comes out to the average 4.5. They haven't given up any scores to a non-Power 5, which is interesting. I don't know. I think we'll see ultimately how this all unfolds for them. But it's not Auburn. 17 points to Auburn's one thing.
But the other thing is, too, Mississippi State, a very dynamic offense, went into Death Valley, and I think they won that game pretty easily, like pulling away. So, I don't know. They really shut down Will Rogers in that passing attack. So, like, if they can limit Tennessee's big plays through the air, I think that's a game changer for sure.
Well, Cedric Tillman's apparently getting on the plane on Friday, and Heupel said tonight that he is in a, quote, position to where he's starting to move around. So I think that will be a big part of it, too, is what Cedric Tillman's able to do in this one. Because it's one thing to get away with it at home against Florida. It's another thing to not have your second-best player on the road in a big-time SEC atmosphere. So we'll see. Not an excuse, but that is a reality that Cedric Tillman is the best receiver in the conference, and Tennessee might not have him. So we'll see, ultimately. But Smokey Grays, it's a good sign. I like that, to add a little bit more fear in the Bayou Bengals as we head to Baton Rouge. I'm excited.
I've always said that, that's when Georgia should bust out their black jerseys when they go on the road, when someone like Georgia Tech is wearing white at home or LSU wears white at home. Perfect time to bust them out.
No, it should be Auburn. Like, I don't know why you don't just do it the home games against Auburn. Like, that's where you had the dancing, crank that Soulja Boy and everything. Just do it against Auburn. Like, that's
they should
Auburn
just
thing.
do it once a year, regardless. Yeah. I don't think one team should, like, I don't think you should wear them against one team every year. Like, I think I don't want to give anyone that satisfaction. It's not a special occasion playing you. We're just rocking our black jerseys because we want to rock them. All
right. Well, we'll get more into the Auburn Georgia stuff in a second,
which
is so weird. October 5th, and we're talking about Auburn, Georgia. Just a weird schedule.
Yeah, we should be talking Georgia, Tennessee right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, where are we going next?
Keeping it moving. Like I said about the Kansas TCU game, Texas and Oklahoma, unranked, meeting each other when both teams are unranked for the first time since 1998. And Oklahoma is a 6.5-point dog in this one. I guess we got no Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma in this one.
General Booty.
So Quinn Ewers is back. Texas is just, I believe in Texas with Quinn Ewers. I feel like it's almost night and day how I feel about this team with and without Quinn Ewers. And Oklahoma, I think they're about to drop to 0-3 in the conference. I don't like this Oklahoma team right now. So yeah, give me Texas to win and cover. I
like it. I'm right there with you. This is one where if you're also one quick thing, Graham Coffey had this stat I wanted to throw out on Tennessee LSU real quick, and then we'll get right back to it. I forgot to mention this. Friend of the program, Graham, he put out Tennessee is 2-16 on the road versus ranked SEC West teams the last 20 years, which is wild. 3-28 on the road versus ranked SEC teams, period, the last 15 years. And a favorite versus LSU. It's just the third time they've been a road favorite versus a ranked SEC team in 15 years. 32 games total. It's wild. So, I don't know. They're going against history on Saturday, but we'll see. In terms of Oklahoma and Texas, how many times would you – like, this was something I thought was interesting because I went back and I double-checked this when I saw this stat, and I was going through each game because it felt like this, but you kind of had to, like, do a double take. Like, a lot of these games might blend together a little bit. Like, I remember the Kyler run. I remember different things, and you're just like, all right, let me go back. And which year did that happen? How many games of the last 8 years in the Red River Shootout, which we will be calling not the Red River Rivalry and that alliteration nonsense. We're doing the Red River Shootout on this very program. How many would you guess had the game come down to one score or less in the last 8 meetings?
Oh man, there was those. I feel like there was like 4 or 5 in a row, right? They came right down to the last score. I would guess 6 of the last 8.
All of the last 8. All of the
Wow.
last 8. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, this is a rivalry to like from the outside. It feels like Oklahoma kind of like dominates. Like it feels like they're just the superior program, but it's not quite as one-sided as I really expect as I ever expected. I feel like every single game, like you said, is comes down to the last score.
Yeah, and I think too, like, so OU last year had the biggest comeback ever when they were down 21 late and stunned Texas. So Texas had them on the ropes a year ago with Sark, and Oklahoma lost 2 straight. Now you said this last week. You're like, OU's not going to lose 2 straight. Like that's possible, and they've done it before. And now we're at this point where I think we have to really recalibrate how we view Oklahoma in this year 0 for Brent Venables and what he's doing there, and especially with Dylan Gabriel out for this one, that matters a great deal. I think this Oklahoma team might just be bleh this year. I mean, they might be the 5th, 6th best team in the conference, and I think Texas, when healthy, is better. And you mentioned Quinn Ewers. It's not even Quinn Ewers for me in this matchup. What have the last 2 teams done? Max Duggan had his big runs, and TCU was able to run the ball in Oklahoma. Week prior, Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn did all they wanted to do on the ground. Bijan Robinson, coming into the year, we said might be the best running back in college football. I think that matters the most to me in this one, where I think Bijan has a big-time game, and they don't have to throw everything at Quinn Ewers to go get them a win in this rivalry game. Like, they're not just like, hey, you're back. All right, go win us the Oklahoma game. I think this is where Bijan should have his biggest game, because PFF, guess who is number 1 in most missed tackles forced of any running backs of anywhere in the country or in the Big 12 this year? It's Texas with 66, and it's a distant number 1. I think that matchup is a problem for Oklahoma, and if Texas should win this game, and I will be pretty surprised if Texas doesn't take care of business here. So give me Texas to win and cover.
We agree, sir. Keeping it moving, Purdue at Maryland, and Maryland is a 4-point favorite at home. What are your thoughts about this one?
So we talked about last week, Purdue's maybe turned the corner a little bit, and now we're like, oh wait, Purdue might be the best team in the SEC West this year. But Maryland, obviously going to the distance with Michigan, who were like, well, maybe Michigan has some flaws, like the pass offense just isn't quite there. Blake Corum is an elite running back in this country, but like I have questions about their ability to throw downfield and be electric in the passing game. We haven't seen it yet from J.J. McCarthy. There's still time. It's a long season, but we haven't seen it yet. We've seen it from Baby Tua. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year, both through the air and on the ground. But you do some deep dives in the old trusty Phil Steele annual, and Maryland just has a really bad record versus Big Ten West teams in the past. And that was an alarming stat. And then I was looking at just, what competition and like how Maryland and Purdue have stacked up in the conference. Maryland, number 2 in passing offense in the conference this year. Purdue, number 3. But what's the most interesting to me is Purdue is number 1 in the Big Ten in pass yards versus Power 5 competition. So Purdue has played the best when they are playing the best. They play down to their competition a little bit. I think Purdue is going to win this game, and I think Purdue is going to cover. I think Purdue has made the jump. I think they're fine. They're moving in the right direction, and I think the Big Ten West is theirs this year.
I'm shocked, sir. I thought you were the head of the Baby Tua fan club.
Look, I like Baby Tua. I like Maryland. I think this will be a close game, but I think Purdue, for whatever reason, it's just like when they play bad teams, you're like, ooh, is that Purdue now? Like, is that why do we ever buy into Purdue? And then they play Ohio State, Penn State, whoever, and they wake back up. And this is a good Maryland team, so they're going to be up for this one because I think they know they're playing for the Big Ten West now. So give me the Boilermakers to win this one.
Yeah, like I said, I was surprised to see you go that way, but I'm also feeling the Boilermakers. It's just something about this team going at Minnesota. I feel like they kind of won me over with that victory, holding Minnesota to 10 points. I think Minnesota's a better team than Maryland, personally. Maryland probably has a better offense, but yeah, they also, tough games with Penn State and Syracuse. This Purdue team is tested, so I think, I also like them to go on the road and get the win and cover.
You're just mad because you're not going to be able to make up as much ground this week.
Hey, it's only week 6. It's we got a marathon, sir. It's we got a long way to go.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. Where are we going next?
Keeping it moving. The 3:30 CBS game. Auburn goes on the road at Georgia, Deep South's oldest rivalry, and Georgia is a 29.5-point favorite, sir. This spread is just massive, especially after Georgia 2 underwhelming performances in a row. Almost lost to Missouri, who looks like maybe the worst team in the SEC so far. Pretty close to the bottom.
I was gonna say, did Vanderbilt leave the conference? What happened?
Yeah, jury's still out on that about Vanderbilt and Missouri, who's better, to be honest. But Missouri obviously gave Georgia a tough game. But while this spread looks just absolutely insane, Auburn just doesn't really score touchdowns when they play in Sanford Stadium. I think you got to go back their last 10 visits to Sanford Stadium, and they haven't scored more than 1 touchdown in any of them. You go 29.5 is a lot. Georgia is getting AD Mitchell back this week, and Arian Smith is healthy. I think it's all about how Georgia executes in the red zone. I think we talked about this last week. Feed Brock Bowers the ball. This man, I'm wondering if Georgia should start playing him at running back and just making sure this guy gets 15 to 20 touches a game. He's clearly the best player on this team, and Georgia just needs to do a better job of feeding him, scoring touchdowns. They need to get back to what they were doing early in the season, which was just throwing all these short passes to the running backs, to the tight ends out in the flat, to the playmakers, and just let them make plays after the catch. So you hardly saw any of that in the Missouri game until the fourth quarter, and it immediately worked just about every time they did it. So while this spread does seem crazy, I do think Georgia is going to be a little extra motivated. Big-time rivalry game, national television, and I think they're going to come out and take care of business. I don't think Auburn's going to score double digits. So give me Georgia. I think it's going to be a 38-7 type of game, and I think Georgia takes care of business.
Whew. Interesting. Here is something else that I thought was funny, and I just don't know what you're doing here if you're this Auburn team. Did you see what the Auburn center said today?
Yeah, I did.
He said, quote, "If we can keep them out of their third down packages, we can demolish them." What are you doing? Why are you giving him bulletin board material a couple days before this game? What are you doing? I'm fascinated with a couple things. I wonder if this is it for Harsin, if there's a number of embarrassment where that's all right, yeah, this is it. If we get embarrassed by a certain number on the road at UGA, then maybe this is where we call it quits. I'm not sure. We talked about the schedule, and Auburn is just in the midst of a brutal schedule. That I just don't see going their way. But the Dogs are still number 1 in points allowed in the SEC. Auburn's 13th in yards per play in the SEC. Not good. There are 14 teams. The offense isn't good. UGA, they've won 5 straight against Auburn, which I didn't realize, which is, guess how long it's been since UGA won 5 straight in the series?
Is that first time ever?
1944 through 1948 was the last time they had this long of a streak against Auburn.
Wow.
I don't think this is going to be close. The difference with the Mizzou thing, it's at Mizzou. It's a night game. It's a little bit different. This is at Georgia. I don't see this same kind of thing happening. When was the last home loss for Georgia?
In this series, 2005 is the last time Auburn beat Georgia in Athens. And the last time they scored more than 10 points in Athens was 2009. Actually, the last time they scored more than 10 points in the state of Georgia playing Georgia was 2009, because they also throw in that SEC championship as well.
Yeah, I just don't see a path. Robbie Ashford, not good. And we already know about the second half stuff for Auburn. He
looked good for about a quarter and a half, or 2 quarters against LSU, and then I'm not really sure what happened to Auburn's offense after that.
I mean, 4 turnovers for Auburn, 1 for LSU. It was just you can't win football games playing that way and turn the ball over. And Brian Harsin teams, for whatever reason, they just get obliterated in the second half. Things just go awry. So maybe it's close in the first half, maybe. But I think UGA either way wins and covers very easily. Give me the dogs in a big one.
That is the one thing about, you said 5 straight wins for Georgia in this series. They've only scored more than 30 in one of these last 5. So they're really just kind of suffocating them, but they're not necessarily blowing them out, just hanging 40 on them in most of these games. But yeah, I think it's one of the less talked about, like, one-sided rivalries, honestly. Like 14 of the last 17. Like, I think Georgia's really dominated this series in recent history.
Absolutely. Where are we going next?
Keeping it moving out to the Pac-12, also at 3:30. We got Utah at UCLA. And I was going back and forth on this. I feel like UCLA really sold me last week. I was very impressed with the Bruins. I feel like they are one of the best teams in the Pac-12. I think we can say that now. However, I think Utah might still be the best team in the Pac-12. I think they're right up there. UCLA seems sexier, but Utah just seems like they're solid. They're gonna get it done. I like this Utah team. I think they've won, I believe, 5 straight in this series over UCLA. Give me the Utes to go on the road and win and cover.
Interesting. So Bruins, they're different. I think a lot of people they write off the Bruins. I mean, there wasn't a bunch of fan support for what happened last Friday. And look, sir, you taking the Bruins, or you just giving the Bruins some flowers here? A week after you turned your back on a Matt Green staple in favor of the Huskies walking into the Rose Bowl and just taking care of business on a Friday night in spoopy season. It hurts my soul to see you flip-flop like that, Matt Green. But the Bruins are a good team. Let me start there. Utah has also won 5 straight in the series. Utah is 12th in scoring defense nationally. They figured out a lot of stuff since that road game at Florida to kick things off here, where they really should have won that game, but they just did a lot of stuff dumb. And then obviously we saw what happened in the end in the red zone and just the stupid pick and that sort of thing. The difference, though, with UCLA this year than the Chip Kelly teams of the past, UCLA's defense is good. And we saw it against Washington. After the first quarter, they really settled down and figured stuff out and took advantage of UW being a really one-dimensional team through the air. They're 38th in scoring defense nationally. Last year, the Bruins were 73rd. So they've really, really improved, and we know they're a top 20 offense. DTR, Bobo, and you talked about it last week, Charbonnet. This was tough for me, where the thing that I keep going back to, because this is in UCLA, right?
Yeah.
Is this going to be my upset of the week? Am I going to do this? Am I going to go 6-0 UCLA? Do I think the Utah on the road, because the Utah schedule, let me pull it up real quick, because I've gone back and forth on this one today. And yeah, okay. Guess who they have next week at home?
Do they have USC?
They do have USC at home. Is this not just letdown city where they're just thinking about USC, the future of the Pac-12? This would be the worst thing to happen to USC, is UCLA just sitting there lurking at home, Utah just thinking about Pac-12 glory, thinking about stomping all over the Trojans, the new Pac-12 darling, overlooking the other undefeated team in the Pac-12 in the process, and getting snake bit by DTR and company. Give me the Bruins in an upset as a prelude to the Utes taking down the Trojans at home the following week. Give me the Bruins here in an upset. 6-0 Brews.
All right, put it on the board. I don't know if you can. I don't know if it's a trap game, if you're going on the road at the 18th ranked team. I think you got to get up for a ranked matchup, but we'll see. I trust Kyle Whittingham. He'll have his guys ready.
All right, we'll see. I mean, we know that Kyle Whittingham. It'll be close. I like UCLA at home here, and give me the Bruins.
Those 8,000 fans are going to get their money's worth.
Which is so sad because what a venue. If I was a UCLA student,
Yeah.
I would be there all the time. Like the Rose Bowl is amazing. Why would you not be there? It's fun offense. It's great to watch.
That's true. They have been fun to watch. Keeping it moving, we got North Carolina going on the road at Miami. Hurricanes are a 4-point favorite at home. And I'll be honest, I just don't know. I don't know what Hurricane team we're getting. Is Tyler we're coming off a bye week now. Like, is Tyler Van Dyke, is he gonna be back, or have we officially made the move to Jake Garcia?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's Van Dyke starting. Last I checked.
I mean, you do have a bye week to circle the wagons, as they say, but I feel like I trust that North Carolina is going to score some points. They might lose this game 40-37 or something, but I like North Carolina. I feel like I can trust North Carolina to actually score points, and I don't even know. I don't know what side of the ball is going to play well for Miami. So give me North Carolina to go on the road into, I would say Coral Gables, but I believe it's Miami Gardens is where they play. So yeah, go on the road, get the win.
I'm surprised you did this. I am surprised you went this way. Drake May is going to be a first-round quarterback. That's
my guy.
He's legit. He's been sensational this year for the Tar Heels. Tyler Van Dyke, rough year. This is quite alarming. This was when I decided that UNC was winning this game on the road at Miami. Matt Green, quote from Barry Jackson, a good Miami sports reporter. He said, quote, UM's Tyler Van Dyke reveals one change now. He's being more together with Gaddis and Ponce, not only one at a time, and telling them what I like and I don't like, and trying to get comfortable feeling with them and being there more with them instead of them on my own. This does not seem like a great quarterback room, and just clarity with what the responsibilities are and everyone working hand in hand. I don't know. It seems that's just a weird quote and a weird vibe in this quarterback room. And like you said, Van Dyke got benched last time we saw him for Jake Garcia, formerly of Grayson and Valdosta lore. It would not surprise me if Miami won this game. They have more talent. They should, like we thought that they could be a 10-win team preseason-wise, just based on their personnel and just the amount of talent that, Miami brought in, both with the staff and everything else. But it might just take a little bit more time at Miami. And the fall from grace from Tyler Van Dyke is it's rough, because there were people who were wondering if he was going to be the first pick in the draft. He's kind of doing this year's version of Spencer Rattler, I think, a little bit, is what I was thinking when I was thinking about where his fall just kind of reminds me of. I have a stat for you. Highest graded quarterbacks on third and fourth down in college football this year. Number 1, CJ Stroud at 94.7. Number 2, Drake May at 93.3. Drake May's legit, man. Even in big-time clutch moments where he has to make a play, that's a lot for a young quarterback. And Drake May, he's big time. So give me the Tar Heels on the road here to win and cover.
We agree again, sir.
I don't mean to do this. I'm not trying to sit on my lead, Matt Green.
No, you've already declared what your strategy was going to be if you got a lead. So the listeners, we have receipts. We know exactly what you're up to. But keeping it moving, Washington State goes on the road at USC, and USC is an 11.5-point favorite in this one. And I'm just not sure how to feel about the 11.5. I just keep going back to like that Oregon State game, just how ugly it was. What was it? 4 turnovers to 4-0 in the turnover margin. You win 14-7. Arizona State, they took a little bit took care of business a little better against Arizona State, but I don't know. I like Cam Ward. He's been good this year, but he's also he's turned it over a lot. And this USC defense has a knack for forcing turnovers this year. I feel like I struggle with the 11.5, but give me USC, and I'll take them to cover as well. But I don't feel great about it. I feel like this could be closer than I've given the Cougs credit for.
Cougs are a hard team to get a read on this year. Number 25 in scoring defense. But here's the thing. Here's what I came back to with this one. Sorry to do it to you, Cougs. USC's going down. Like, eventually that's going to happen. I think it's next week on the road at Utah. But what makes me think the Cougs are going to be in trouble here, USC, the biggest thing about this team outside of Caleb Williams putting on a clinic, I don't know if you watched some of the throws, but he was Patrick Mahomesing it last Saturday night against the Arizona State Sun Devils. Had some really bonkers throws. He had this cool jump throw at one point in this game. Just really active in the pocket, and just he's quietly just having a Heisman type year. Like, he is absolutely one of the best quarterbacks in college football and has been sensational since arriving on campus. So he's been everything you expected him to be when he transferred to USC. The Cougs are 116th in turnover margin. It's bad. 131 teams in college football. You don't want to be in that 116th in turnover margin. You're playing with fire at that point. USC's number one, man. USC is going to take advantage of this. They're not going to turn the ball over. I think Washington State's going to do too many little dumb things that USC is just going to break you on because they've done so well at playing keep away and ensuring that they maintain control. So give me the Trojans to both win and cover in Pullman.
All right, we agree again, sir. BYU in Las Vegas taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. My uniform flag, I need to get it. I'm going to throw it on this one. These Notre Dame uniforms, one of the worst uniforms I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you've seen these.
I have not. Let me look them up.
Yeah, look them up. They got these like gold shoulder things and gold stripes going down the side. And I think they have like dice and like different Las Vegas themed things throughout the uniform. And they're just awful. And I thought Notre Dame's entire brand was like this tradition and everything.
Oh, these look quite bad.
Can't stand them. Basically every alternate jersey Notre Dame has rocked outside of just the plain solid green ones back from the Darius Walker era that we talk about. Every other alternate jersey they've rocked has looked terrible. Like, I just don't know what they're doing. They have no names on the back of the jersey, no logo. Like, do your classic 1940s thing. Like, you don't have to do anything. You're Notre Dame. But that's my rant for the uniforms. And because of those uniforms, I cannot, in good conscience, pick a team that's going to wear uniforms like that. Just awful. But also BYU, are they going to have more fans at this game than Notre Dame? No?
Notre Dame's a national brand, man.
It is a national brand, but, I mean, BYU right out here in Provo going to the short trip to Vegas. I mean, honestly, BYU, I guess if we're real talk, they might not even go to Las Vegas. I don't know. That might be something they're against. But I look at this BYU team, and with Jaron Hall at quarterback, I just feel like, I mean, they got that good win over Baylor. I just feel like this is a good team. And Notre Dame, while they've cleaned up their act the last couple weeks, and like I guess it's Drew Pine now, like he's been better, but they're still like, this team just doesn't seem special at all. And so I like BYU better. I'm gonna go with the Cougars to win. And Notre Dame, I didn't say it, is a 3-point favorite in this one, but I'm gonna go with BYU to win outright in this one.
I like that Notre Dame has a bye before this game after beating North Carolina in a big kind of season-saving win 2 weeks ago. I think that matters, just getting right and getting behind 2 weeks to just kind of get ready for a good BYU team. BYU's also blacking out for this one, and those look pretty cool. I looked at that. I don't know if you saw what BYU's wearing, but they're wearing
no, I did not
some
see that.
Black unis, and I think those are pretty cool looking. So I wish this wasn't in Vegas. It goes without saying. This would be cool if it was just in Provo. They did a home and home. These teams should play more often. I don't know why BYU and Notre Dame rarely play, because the last time they played, I looked this up. They haven't lost to BYU since 2005, and they haven't played. It's been a little bit. I forget. I lost it. I don't know where it went. But Notre Dame has not lost to BYU since 2005. They don't play that all that often, so that's not a big deal. But something I thought was kind of a big deal, BYU still hasn't named a kicker for this one. And in a game where it's they're a 3-point dog, if I'm a BYU fan, I'm a little nervous about our kicking situation if this game's tight. That's never good for college kickers and just being a college football fan for your coaching staff to not really feel good about wherever you're going on the kicking front. So that's a concern for me. The BYU DB, Caleb Hayes, said of this game, "This is the holy war." That is what he said for ahead of this one. So I don't know. I don't like this matchup for the Cougs. I think Notre Dame comes out on the road, 2 weeks off, prepare for Jaron Hall and company. I think this is super close, but I think there's just enough for me to believe that Notre Dame's figuring some stuff out. The talent wins out. They play keep away. They play smart football, and they win something like 26-20, 21. Give me Notre Dame to barely win and cover.
All right, lock it in. And then the nightcap of our CBS doubleheader. Man, it's got to be the worst CBS doubleheader ever, right? 29.5 point favorite in the first one, 24-point favorite in the second one. We got the Texas A&M Aggies going to Tuscaloosa to play number 1 Alabama. And like I said, 24-point favorite, Alabama at home. I was foolish last week. I questioned the Crimson Tide. This one, it's a little different. We have heard basically nothing about Bryce Young's injury. Maybe it's not that serious. I don't know. I tend to think even without Bryce Young, Alabama wins this game by 24 points because I just have not been impressed with Texas A&M. They're not going to be able to score. I don't see them scoring more than 2 touchdowns in this game. So for that reason, especially with all the off the field things, there's a chance this team plays with a chip on their shoulder, they're playing for their coach in this little pissing contest that Jimbo and Nick Saban have gotten into over the last few months. So I can almost see Alabama shutting A&M out completely in this game. So give me Alabama to win and cover.
Oh, wow. Basically what I've read about it is just this is painful as hell, dealing with that AC sprain is just really, really painful. But he can play. It's just I feel like he's just going to be – he's a tough dude, man. Based on what I'm reading about this, and especially playing with this, it seems like he is. He's day-to-day. I would assume he's going to play. It's just going to be – he's just going to be in pain. And this is not a good time for Bryce Young to be in this spot because – you've got A&M in this defense, which for everything else, the defense is still solid. That's not been the question, is Texas A&M's defense. Then you get Tennessee the week after. I mean, Tennessee hits you. They're sending people, and this is a more aggressive unit, and they're going to be on the field a lot against Bama at home in that one. So, I don't know. Not a great time for Bryce Young to not be 100% if you're an Alabama fan. That being said, part of the, we talk about on this podcast, for a lot of these upsets, you got to step one is just being at home and getting teams at the right time at home. And everything was set up for an A&M upset at home this time last year. On the road, obviously different circumstances all across the board. I don't see it. I mean, the Aggies have lost, Matt Green, their last 3 road games. I had to double take at that. They haven't won a road game since their 4th game ago. Their 2 wins are extremely low scoring. If you see how many points they scored against Arkansas and Miami, it's not like they're putting up a bunch of points to beat those 2 schools. You're not going to be able to do that at Bama. That's not how this works, especially on the road. Bama's won their last 20 home games. We're talking more, what is that, 3 years just about at home that they have not lost. This, I don't see it. I think this is rough. I think things are getting worse and worse in College Station. Give me Bama to win and cover. I'm not going to say roll. I'm not going to do that for them.
In terms of, you can't do that. But in terms of last year being a perfect storm or anything, though, they were not looking good last year. There was nothing that was hinting towards them upsetting Alabama last year. Coming off 2 straight losses to Arkansas, Mississippi State, not really knowing what the quarterback situation was. Calzada was looking pretty much as bad as ever. Mm-hmm. So crazier things have happened, but I don't.
But it was at home.
It was, exactly. It was at home. And yeah, I don't see it happening this year. If for the very least they did beat them last year is probably the number one reason why they're not going to get them this year. And then our last one in our pick, we got Florida State going on the road at NC State. The Wolfpack is a 3.5-point favorite at home. And I like the Wolfpack. I'm a Devin Leary guy. Florida State, they've definitely shown signs of improvement this year, but I think the Wake Forest loss to me, like Wake Forest isn't a bad team, so it's not a bad loss, but it was just a very uninspiring loss. I feel like just kind of where Florida State is as a program right now. I personally still think NC State is a better team than Wake Forest. And so I think NC State's going to bounce back. They played Clemson close, but I think Clemson's shown they're still the class of the ACC. But yeah, I don't see Florida State going on the road and beating NC State. So give me the Wolfpack to bounce back this week to win and cover.
This is my lock of the week. Just go ahead and lock it in. Sorry to Cousin Sam and all my family that went to FSU. There is zero chance, 0.0000 that the Wolfpack lose at home to Florida State following that close loss last week to the Clemson Tigers. Suddenly, I'm a little nervous about the rest of the way for Florida State. I was thinking, turn the corner. Maybe they're the second best team in the ACC this year. This week, they're on the road at NC State. Next week, they're at home against Clemson. So 2 losses here. So where does that put them? What, 4-3 at that point? Right?
4-3? Don't have it. I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay, I think it puts them at 4-3. Yeah, I'm looking right here. So that would put them at 4-3. Then you get Georgia Tech, who just upset Pitt at home. Like, that's no longer. I'm with Jeff Collins gone. Like, they're just mercurial. Look at Nebraska post-firing. Nebraska's figuring some stuff out. I don't know. There might be some added juice, the Ed Orgeron effect. Like, you want him as an interim. You don't want him as the head guy. Like, we're seeing that all across the board right now. Then you go to Miami. I don't think they'll be favored there. Syracuse is really good this year. They have to go to Syracuse later on this year. They didn't beat Florida last year when they had their chance when Florida was really down. I don't think they're going to be favored at home against Florida. Suddenly, this looks like maybe a 500 team again, and I thought they were turning the corner. I think there's a path to like 5 or 6 losses now, and that's a bummer if you're a Florida State fan because Jordan Travis has been tremendous. They seem like they were turning the corner a little bit, but this part of the schedule sucks, and I'm seeing at least Syracuse and or Miami/Florida State or Florida along with this Clemson and NC State loss. So I think best case scenario they're 7-5 this year, which a big flip since over what they were looking like a couple weeks ago. That Wake loss really stings at home. You needed that one. You really, really needed to get that one done with what was lying ahead for the Noles, and they just didn't. So I think I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I think gloom and doom is on the way for Florida State the rest of the way.
With that said, Wake Forest could still be, one of the better teams in the Atlantic Division.
No, I'm just saying like that was like a moment. Like you're looking for that next tier, right? Because you see NC State, Clemson are on their own tier this year. You're fighting for that tier 2, and I think Wake was right there. It was like Wake and Pitt and Florida State, and they were in that battle, and they needed to cement themselves, and that's when you got to get at home. They're right there. You got to get that home win.
Yeah, also at Miami, real late in the season. That was always like Labor Day weekend.
I was gonna say that used to be the opener.
Yeah, it was always right there at the start of the year. So
little things, college football, just do it. Why like that? Why not just do? Why ever move that game? Why is that not the Labor Day game? That was.
Hey, I won't complain. They're still playing each other, so I won't complain on that one.
Is that their only other Florida team that they play? They only did Florida and Miami. Do I see? Because I don't. Yeah, they didn't play another Florida school.
No, not this year.
That's so weird. Why would you not have UCF or USF or whoever? Like, that's just... Why do you not have more regional games? Why are you playing Louisiana? Why are you playing Duquesne?
I mean, they played LSU. That's a great out-of-conference game.
No, I want more... whatever. I'm not going to get my soapbox about this. I think that's silly. Like, Never mind. Like Tennessee, drop the Tennessee Martin and put Memphis on the schedule, or put UTC, or I don't know. Just throw them a bone for the in-state folks. I just
Is UT Martin different than playing UTC?
Yeah, UTC is a powerhouse. FCS.
That's
royalty.
the exact same game. UT Chattanooga or UT Martin. Like, we want to ditch it for like Virginia Tech or something. See Tennessee play North Carolina or something like that.
I'm surprised we don't play North Carolina more.
NC State, yeah, some teams that are right there regionally.
Virginia Tech's the one I want. Like, that's the yearly rivalry I want to create. Like, I think the Bristol was the starting point. Just really create something there. I think there's
made Tennessee Louisville. You know, there's a lot of options in there.
It's possible. Matt Green, I think that does it for our pick'em. Were there some other games that did not make our pick'em that we should touch on?
There were, but before we do that, we disagreed on 3 games this week. So that's all. You with Tennessee LSU, we disagreed. Utah UCLA, and then BYU Notre Dame. And then you took Kansas against the spread, but we both took TCU to win that one. But yeah, so a lot of similarities. If I'm making up any ground, it probably won't be in week 6, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
UCF, as we're recording, they blew out SMU tonight, so they're 4-1, 1-0 in the American. That's one to watch. I am curious to see Michigan to Indiana. Michigan's 22.5-point favorite, but Indiana's been a little spunky to start this year. Connor Bazelak and company. Camper's been a really good receiver for them. I don't know. I'm curious to see how that one goes. Mississippi State and Arkansas do battle at noon on the network. Mississippi State's 9.5-point favorite. I was surprised it was that high.
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm very surprised by that. But if that's with KJ Jefferson being out, that's a little bit different. So if KJ Jefferson's out, I mean, I feel completely different about Arkansas as a team. So yeah, that'll be a tough one. Is there a word on if he's playing or not?
I think he's playing. Last I checked, he was playing, but we'll see. Can I get on my soapbox real quick about UVA, who's hosting Louisville? Louisville 0-3, by the way, to start this season in the ACC. Scott Satterfield, I think this is it for him at Louisville. And Tony Elliott, 0-2 to start things off. Louisville's the 3-point favorite on the road. What they've done to Brennan Armstrong is illegal in 19 states. And look at this. Like, this is one of those things where, like, Caleb Williams saw the Joe Burrow stuff, and, like, I'm going to write about this probably pretty soon. It's just, like, I hate every broadcast now spends, like, 13 minutes total being like, and this guy came from this school and he's a transfer. Oh, there it is to blank blank who transferred in from blank blank. And it's like, is this our future? Is just half the broadcast is just the broadcast team telling fans who came from where and where you may have seen this player. Like, on every single catch, it's like, oh, the transfer from blank. And it's like, well, when they start transferring multiple times, they're just going to go, he started at blank and then he moved to blank and now he just made this big catch for blank. And it's just exhausting. I
don't know. I feel like you kind of have to, though.
It's exhausting. I can't stand it. And I get, like you said, you kind of have to, but, like, I don't know, like, when I was watching back the Florida-Tennessee game and you hear Justin Short, Penn State, and Ricky Pearsall from Arizona State, like, I lost track how many times they're mentioning who transferred in from where, and just, I can only imagine for a casual fan. But Brennan Armstrong stays, and guess what? If he had just transferred to Syracuse, followed his guys, which he should have done, like Caleb Williams, he's having a great year in the Carrier Dome. Don't care what it's called now, in the Carrier Dome. And instead, it's Schrader, who had shown nothing to this point, but an eye comes up from the Bronco Mendenhall staff. That offensive group comes up, saved Dino Babers' job. Syracuse undefeated, having a great year. That offense is clicking. He stays around, being loyal to UVA. This new offense sucks, and he's in the last year. Like, this is it. Brennan Armstrong just tanked when he was going into the year as maybe the best ACC quarterback. He sticks around 1 year too long. The staff leaves him. That's it.
Do we have to ask some questions about Tony Elliott?
Well, it's funny you say that because, remember, he was the favorite for the Tennessee job, and it was like, oh, it looks like it's going to be Tony Elliott who gets pried away. And they were, like, in deep discussions for Tony Elliott to be the one who replaced Pruitt, and it ends up being Josh Heupel. Like, I feel pretty good. The way, also, sneakily, Do you know what coaching tree really sucks? Dabo Sweeney's. It is a disaster. Jeff Scott, Chad Morris, Tony Elliott to this point, not a great tree. Not a lot of success when they leave that. And Brent Venables struggling a little bit at Oklahoma.
Like, he obviously coached Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, but like those guys, like how much better did those guys get from their freshman to junior year? It seems like those guys were just ballers, right? Like, I don't know how much he truly developed them. Like, obviously you can kind of cherry pick when it comes to players and, like, you know, give guys credit for this guy, but don't give them credit for someone else. But those guys were kind of, you know, generational talents, and they played well. I know Watson threw a lot of interceptions his junior year. Not that he wasn't still a really good player, but it's like, if without Watson and Trevor Lawrence, this Clemson offense has looked pretty bad with DJ Ucla last year, and even the 1 year with Kelly Bryant wasn't very good. So, yeah, now we saw how good Brennan Armstrong was last year. So to see him look like a bad quarterback, I mean, it's hard not to point to the coaching.
I would also keep an eye on 7:30 on the network. UK hosting a desperate South Carolina team who is 0-2 in the conference, and UK looking to bounce back after almost losing on the road at Ole Miss. I'm curious. 0-3 South Carolina in the SEC. I was told that things were moving in the right direction for the rookie coach of the year. It's amazing that did not go that way, and that one is unlike the other. But I was told that the sleeping giant and South Carolina, the preseason, they're just, look, I don't want to pick on South Carolina fans. Great fans. Rough, man. It's a rough time, and I don't see it getting better in Gamecock country this year.
Well, and I remember telling you about that after watching SEC Media Days. Like, I was just so confused watching the SEC Network and the way everyone was talking about South Carolina. It was almost like the team that could challenge Georgia and all this stuff. I'm like, are you guys meaning Tennessee? Is that who y'all are talking about? Like, South Carolina was like fine, but like they kind of benefited from some teams being really down last year, and teams firing their head coaches, and teams just checking out of the season. Like, Tennessee is actually a threat, a national, you know, contender at this point. South Carolina is not. And at Kentucky, Kentucky, I feel like is going to play with every single team they play. So, like, I'm not going to say Kentucky's going to, like, blow them out of the window or something. It's probably going to be like a one-possession game in the final minutes. But Kentucky just seems like a better team. So I'd be surprised if South Carolina goes in and gets the win.
I would be too. I think this might be a bloodbath of just them being pissed off and getting back home for the Wildcats. I mean, they're 52nd in passing offense this year. Like, 52nd. Like, what? The Rattler stuff, like, Caleb Williams took over, doing great. Like, Spencer Rattler's it's just not going to work out. Like, it's not going to happen, it turns out. I mean, he has 4 TDs, 7 picks through 5 games this year, completing 64% of his passes. He completed 74% last year. This is his worst mark since his freshman year.
That's not good.
No, like, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to pick on the South Carolina fans who listen. So we apologize. It's not you guys. It's just, I don't see it. This is Shane Beamer's a likable dude, and I think that's where a lot of this stems from, is like he's an easy guy to root for. But similar to Vanderbilt and Clark Lee, where are the wins coming? Who are they beating? Who in the SEC are you actually picking them to beat and just usurp in this conference, especially in this division? It's not Kentucky. It's not Tennessee. It's not Georgia. Who is it?
Well, the one thing I will say in South Carolina's defense is coming into the season, like, Arkansas and Georgia were not supposed to be wins. So they haven't lost anyone that they weren't supposed to lose to. So, you know, at Kentucky, an A&M team that doesn't look very good so far, Missouri, at Vanderbilt, even Florida, like, we'll see what kind of team this really is, because that was the one thing. It's like, as good as they were and they were like moving in the right direction, we talked about, like, this is not an easy schedule. Like, they've never beaten Texas A&M since they've been locked rivals. and getting Arkansas on the road was not a good year to get the Razorbacks either in your SEC West rotation. So part of it is the schedule is really tough this year. So I won't say that they're just like not a good team yet, or we just know they're a bad team, I should say. I think we can probably say they're not a very good team, but we don't know that they're a bad team yet. I think this October little portion of the schedule, I think is gonna bring things a little more clear for South Carolina.
Fair enough, Matt Green. Well,
the last one I wanted to touch on. What do you think? What's your take on Missouri and Florida?
Oh, I think Florida wins big.
I think that's the thing is Florida hasn't beaten Missouri very big in most of their Missouri's just one of those teams that you just kind of forget about. They're just like an afterthought, and if I'm not mistaken, their last couple of trips to the Swamp haven't been good for the Gators.
Maybe. I just feel like Mizzou there has to be an after effect of just having Georgia on the ropes, and really, they really just should have won that game. And I don't know that to ask them to get up right after that on the road at Florida. I don't know when they went to the Swamp, it was following Georgia the previous week, but something just tells me that it's just going to be a letdown spot for them. Like to get right back up when you just had the best team in the conference on the brink and you punt and expect to get the ball back because you put the ball in the defense's hands, like go get a stop and get us that ball back one more time. And of course they don't get said stop and they lose the game. That's really deflating to trust your defense like that and then to not get that stop and lose the game in that kind of fashion by playing conservative against the Dogs when you were playing cover zero all night long and then get conservative at the end when it matters. It's just a bad look. I don't see it. I think the Gators run all over them and they win comfortably.
Missouri won 24-23 last year. They've won 3 of the last 5 against Florida. And Florida is 3-2 against Missouri at home since joining the SEC. So we'll see. This is not one of the better Florida teams. That you do have to go back to McElwain the last time they won in the Swamp, but I don't know. We'll see. It might not be the easy win that the Gators are expecting. But, yeah, I expect Florida to win, but I expected Georgia to blow out Missouri as well. Maybe that was just an aberration, and they'll get back to playing the mediocre football that they've been playing most of the season.
Where's Tennessee when you need them? Because let me go ahead and write this one in stone after what we've seen the last couple of years. Tennessee wins by 7 touchdowns. Tennessee is absolutely going to obliterate the Missouri Tigers. It's just a terrible matchup. And, they got their coach fired, I think, last year. The defensive line coach got fired following the Tennessee beatdown. On the road, by the way, in Mizzou. Some SEC East teams take care of business when they go to Columbia, Matt Green. Some don't mess around and just stomp that one out early. Others...
The Georgia Bulldogs have never lost in Columbia, Missouri. I don't think the Tennessee Volunteers can say the same.
That's a good question. Wait, have Tennessee lost in Columbia?
I honestly don't know. I was hoping you know.
You were going through that. You just threw that out there, but since they haven't been in the conference that long, I don't think Tennessee has lost in I gotta look at this.
We gotta look it up now. Because now is compelling radio here. Google search.
So Mizzou lost in 2019 at home. They lost in 2021 at home. They won in 2017. They blew out Tennessee in 2017. 50-17.
There you go. Yeah, blew out Florida in 2017 on the road as well.
And then 2013. I guess that was the Franklin year.
Is that Drew Lock?
Which year?
2017?
That sounds.
What,
yeah,
they beat
it had to
him
be Drew Lock.
50-17 exactly 2 years in a row. How insane is that?
That is true.
50-17 exactly. Wow, that's wild. Yeah, one of those years. I think 2018. I think 2018 was the year Drew Lock threw for like almost 50 touchdowns, I want to say.
Josh Heupel.
There you go.
Some things come full circle. Matt Green, we can find you on Twitter.
I was incorrect. It was 2017. Threw for 44 touchdowns that year.
How many picks? Wasn't it something super small too?
44-13.
13, okay. Matt Green, we can find you on Twitter at Matt _W _Green. Follow myself at Chase _Thomas. More to come on this edition of the program, so stick around here on the Chase Thomas Podcast on the Blue Wire Pod Network. Leave us a 5-star rating and review, all that good stuff. Support the show if you have not already done so by hitting that subscribe button on your preferred podcast player and liking this video if you're watching on youtube.com. Right there, like and subscribe. That would be great so we can continue to grow out the YouTube channel. For that guy down there in Tequila, Georgia, the lowly Tequila Falcons, who are really having a rough go of it this 2022 GHSA season. For myself,
right?
up here, yeah, they're not doing well. For myself up here in Knoxville, Tennessee, that is all I've got, my friend, and I will talk to you Sunday night.
Yes, sir.